Right on. Well, welcome everyone to this opportunity, just to have a conversation and to listen a little more to Jakob Bro. Some of us saw him last night, and I certainly, speaking for myself, it was just a lovely space to be in for about an hour and a half. After a really long day, Jakob, glad you're here. I'll say a quick word of introduction in a moment. Just a few things I'd like to mention as we get together. Welcome to Mackay Church. We're the washrooms are out there, and that's all the administrative things we need to mention. This is a free opportunity to listen and spend some time with Jakob Bro. You are more than welcome to leave a donation if you feel inclined to do so, and that'll all go towards the musical work here in this place. And we're doing more and more around that. And I just wanted to say, because I look around and I realize there's a lot of folks that are pretty connected with, as players, as listeners, as participants in the jazz community. We've got a Jazz in June series happening each year now here at Mackay. Thursdays throughout the month of June, we put on a free lunchtime concert featuring some fine talent from across the city and beyond. Gary Elliott played here last year, and had lots of different familiar names from Ottawa have been part of that series. We've also got an ongoing project called Music and Meditation, which is improvisational music, and is an evening event throughout the year. It's not running in the summertime, and we've had some wonderful guest musicians like Kevin Barrett, Raphael, Weinrith Brown, and others sitting in and just being part of this sort of spacious, meditative evening, first Tuesdays of each month, and then we're actually going to be doing it on a weekly basis through the year. So, and we've got a project that we're calling The Kindness of Jazz, a project around just seeing how music, specifically jazz, specifically as improvisational music, can somehow hint at kindness and sort of explore that. So that's something ongoing. So that's all my advertisements. The way the morning is unfolding, we're going to have, there's coffee and tea and some refreshments, some cookies and whatnot at the back of the church. Feel free to get up and help yourself. We're going to, I've got a few questions. When I talked to Jakob about doing this, he said, well, like to be sort of interviewed, so that's what puts me up front. But I'm really going to ask some questions and then get out of the way and listen along with the rest of us to your words, and really looking forward to hearing more of your music in this space. Jakob is a Danish guitarist with a presence on the world stage. His recording credits, there's some 15 albums that he's led. He's involved in a project. He leads a project that's a 10-tet. He's got a choir project on the go. He's worked with some of the illustrious names it was the Lee Konitz album that got me hooked on you. But some great horn players, Paula Mickelberg on trumpet, and Mark Turner on saxophone. So his latest album is called Bay of Rainbows. We heard some of that material last night with Thomas Morgan and Joey Barron. We drink coffee to Bay of Rainbows every morning at our house. So that's how it's integrated into our lives. I won't say any more because I look forward to just hearing more from you. So without any further ado, it's great to have you here. Welcome to Jakob Bro.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. You'd like me to start playing? Or
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah. Well, thanks for coming out, everybody. Is this okay? Distance. Closer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll start. I'll play a little bit of guitar for you, and you're welcome to ask me questions if you want. To begin with, it was mostly meant as a talk, and then it sort of merged into a mix of music and speaking. So If anything comes up, just feel free to ask me. Yeah. And to you that saw the concert last night, once I start playing, it might, the whole thing might be over before we even get to talk.
Wow.
So just interrupt. I don't know. I'll try to do it short. I'll play a few songs now, and then we can see what happens.
Sure.
Didn't even really try.
Jakob, there's an emotional heft to your music, as I hear as a listener anyways. I'm just wondering if you could talk about, I mean, I can attach other words to it in terms of how I hear it. I hear graciousness, I hear sort of a warmth, a kindness. I'm just wondering, do you have any sense of whether that's true, but also how that gets cultivated? How does that emotional resonance find its way into that piece that you just played?
That's a good question. I think, I mean, for me, music is many things, of course. One thing has been for me to want to learn how to play, learn how to play on an instrument, basically. But that's always been, some sort of going hand in hand with the fact that I had something also that I wanted to create, which now I say going hand in hand, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with the guitar. That's something I realized pretty early on, that I'd like to. I had a sort of. I felt the need to create something that I myself like to listen to, and for that reason, the guitar was sometimes cool and sometimes in the way. So I guess in a way. I don't know if it answers your question, but it's like it. I don't really see myself as a musician so much as I see myself as just a human being, basically, that stumble upon the guitar. I've been struggling with this instrument all my life, basically, and I think in that struggle somehow, and with the sort of desire to create something that I find beautiful, sometimes something cool is coming out of it, I think. But yeah. So I always really enjoyed listening to singers and classical music and a really broad spectrum of genres, basically, and somehow the like my father was a teacher, like the rest of my family, and he was very into music and presented me to like Louis Armstrong and Palle Mikkelborg, for instance, when I was very young and started playing the trumpet. So that's the reason why I sort of went that way somehow, I think. But pretty quickly I realized that that's most of the music I loved. I mean, I changed to guitar after a few years, and then realizing that most of the music I really enjoyed listening to was not coming from this instrument.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. And that was a problem somehow. But I was sort of stubborn and felt like I'd spent so much time with the guitar that it would be a sort of time wasted if I didn't continue. So I think trying to translate the music of Nina Simone and Neil Young, Bob Dylan, Elliott Smith, Bach, all these different, Joni Mitchell, for instance, all these different musicians and artists that I really enjoyed listening to, and I wanted to create music like them, but it wasn't really possible somehow because I wasn't hearing it like this. So I think in that translation, a lot of my sound is sort of present somehow.
Present?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Like yesterday we were playing a song and I felt like just playing that song, like I just wanted to play the melody as if I was Leonard Cohen or somebody, just like without any further comparison. But just like I want to sing this piece and it's gonna be 2 minutes long. But then Joey and Thomas are improvisers, and Thomas, like he he played 10 minutes after that. He kept playing the song, and I just like, I'm done. I sang this song. I'm not going to do it again.
Really?
And yeah, so I guess I really love that thing about music, that it's I don't have any. I might have an idea that I want to play this song as it is and not do it twice, but I don't have a fixed idea that my musicians have to do the same thing. I really enjoy the fact that things are completely open and that I myself also get surprised by what's going on stage. So that sort of goes against the fact that I really enjoy really simple produced music that just sounds good. And I also really enjoy the unpredictable stuff, and that's so I think my music is a big, I was going to say mess, but a big blend of all these different things somehow.
With the song form and the song kind of
Yeah,
clarity at
yeah.
the heart somehow.
Yeah, that's for me. That's the core somehow. That's the song, and I've been working on writing songs. For many years now, and trying to sort of like basically just like get to a point where I really know that this is the song. This note is not the song. This note is an interpretation of the song. Oh. And this note is the song. So keep writing and writing and writing until I'm sure that this is like the skeleton, basically, the frame of the piece. And then all the interpretations are happening when we are playing live, and they are as important. I mean, the first time I played with Likonitz, we were in the studio. That was when we did a record I did in, I think, 2008 or something called Balladeering, mm-hmm. And I had made all these really simple songs, and I wrote these songs and were they were very simple, and when Lee started playing it, I think it was maybe a mix of him seeing it for the first time and not being like completely on top of it, like reading wise. So he just like instantly started improvising, and then I was playing the melody, Bill Frisell was playing the melodies, and then Lee hearing these melodies that were pretty strict somehow, he just started to sort of interpret them. And that happened out of the blue for me. I didn't even think about it, but hearing that was kind of a revelation for me in terms of how I'm writing music, because Lee sort of blew life into the songs. Like they really needed somebody to interpret. And that was important. I started working a lot like that in all my bands, basically, bringing in small sketches of nearly nothing, basically, and then trying to just guide the musicians just enough so that the music sort of could, come to life somehow. Mm.
I feel like when I'm like a lot of us big Lee Konitz fan, and I was just struck by, because I hear him being pretty cool, and fast, and he went on a different place on that recording, Balladeering. I was, again, that was one of those emotional responses to your music that I heard coming from his horn as well. So.
Yeah. I think he was quite puzzled himself, and almost felt like he was. Is this okay? What's going on? There's no hard chord changes, or he liked it, but he was also sort of like, he called me several times afterwards, like, what is this music? What is going on here? He even called me one time and he was like, now I know it is. He had a black pigeon outside of his kitchen window.
Sorry, what?
A black pigeon.
Okay.
And it was sitting there for the entire run of the record. And then once the record stopped, the pigeon flew away. And he called me up like in the middle of the night. It's music for black pigeons. And I was like, well, I don't know, man. But basically, that recording. Like, I don't know if anybody know that recording, but then it might not be so interesting to hear. But that recording started out a whole new sort of way of thinking about composing for me.
That recording
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I brought in stuff like it's not really, it's not supposed to work.
Okay.
like this one,
Oh yeah.
and it's just like there's nothing really in there. We played it like very slow on that record. He would start interpreting, and that was like for me, well, it actually works. It's just an E chord and an F sharp minor chord, but there's something in there that generates a platform of improvisation, general vibe. And now I kind of like playing on it and myself also.
Really? Yeah. Well, don't need to stop. It's just an example of something that I realized was enough to be able to do something that was sort of enjoyable to listen to. So To know that it's enough sounds. I mean, it sounds simple, but it sounds so important too.
yeah, that's true. That's of course that's an individual balance also, and but that's something I'm working a lot with, trying to figure out when to leave things and then bring it into a group and see what they will also. So for me, there has to be some room for everybody to to be themselves, basically.
In the band.
Yeah, because it's like, it's not about the actual composition for me. It's about the persons who are playing the music. So I'm quite particular also with the people I sort of play with, and also very lucky with the people I play with, because they all sound, they're so really, really great musicians.
And I mean, just on the list, like Bill Frisell and on, but they have their own voices, but you seem to be able to warmly, or they seem to support your music, your compositions. Like I'm not hearing their voices sort of going off on.
No, and I think I've been, I guess, partly lucky with that, and also maybe because the music sort of, it doesn't really dictate ego so much. It dictates that it's a room that we can all go into and sort of, just like have a conversation inside of somehow. Of course, sometimes somebody won't get the idea, and then it happens very rarely. But then, I just don't go back to that.
Sure.
But it's so many things. There's also like contrast is also very important to me. There's musicians who has a way more outgoing, energetic sound. Some would say even like more ugly sound. I'm trying to invite different aspects and sounds into my music. The most important thing for me is that people have a story to tell somehow and have something on their mind, and then a somewhat personal like expression. That's and that's like, I think that's my most important job, basically, to keep finding sounds and musicians that I'm inspired by, and then think of them in different contexts. That's I don't really I don't see myself as like I said in the beginning, I don't feel like I'm a musician that's just like, I don't necessarily have to play music the rest of my life. If there's if one day I don't really feel like there's anybody that I would really like to work with, it's cool with me. I can do other things as well.
Really?
Because it's that I don't think that's going to happen somehow, because there's so many musicians that I love and admire and I'm inspired by. But I also, like you said, I did 15 albums so far, and it's a lot of music, I think. And it's to be able to sort of keep that fresh for myself. I need some help. From other musicians, and that's, so I'm constantly thinking about if there's something that I feel like I'm missing, or something I haven't tried yet. Stuff happens in concerts, of course, where we go somewhere in the music where we improvise, and you get inspired by that, and you get ideas also for composing, and it's.
There were some lovely moments last night where I guess where we were sitting, I was sort of behind your back, but so you could see Joey Barron sort of just radiating towards you, like this energy and this smile.
Yeah.
And, it felt very communal.
Yeah.
Is that
that's
intention?
Yeah, that's really. That's in that trio. It's basically all you have to do is really listen to what's going on. And then maybe in the first minute or so you have to put some music into the overall space to get started somehow. But once there's some sound, then it sort of plays itself, because everybody is so focused on just like absorbing what's going on. And of course that's a really, really fun space to be in somehow. It's like a meditation, basically. Where your brain is constantly sort of on an intuitive level trying to just like come up with ideas to sort of throw in there, and that's I think it's pretty good brain exercise to play music like that.
Yeah.
I'm really I'm concerned about. My brain is pretty important.
May speak for all of us.
Yeah.
I had a question. Got this from Jerry. What are some non-playing or even non-musical skills? I mean, I'm hearing a lot of the fact that there's some life outside that is breathing into your music. For you, can you say a little bit about how, in your life, how the non-musical stuff finds its way in here? I think you already have.
Yeah, that's. Well, I think it does pretty automatically when you. At least when I'm touring, the way we go into the music together, where we listen to each other, and of course you're going to bring in like stuff that you're experiencing both in the past and stuff you're experiencing an hour before going on stage, and I think that's pretty. You can't really control that, and that's.
Sounds like you're welcoming that in a way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's. I mean, yesterday having 15 hours in an airport, and then afterwards you don't even think about it because you had 1 hour on stage where you went to places that I didn't even know existed before we went on stage. And that, of course, that's different from everybody listening to it. I mean, some might think it sounded bad or good, or some might like this part. But for me, it was something happened in that hour that we were communicating in a different language somehow, and that clears everything else somehow, which is why touring is possible, I think, because it's like every day a new city, a new country, a new airplane. A lot of stress, waiting for your bags, waiting for blah blah, and then once you're on stage, it should be a joy. Otherwise, it's not worth it. That's for sure. Right. But you said so. I think that comes into the music. I don't do anything sort of deliberately to sort of bring in everyday life, but I do, like when I compose, it feels like almost like a refuge, like a refuge. It's like a place you go.
Refuge.
Yeah,
refuge.
Where I'm not really doing much else than pick up the guitar. I might compose for a week or something, and then I just enjoy the fact that during that week I don't have to struggle so much with my, the inner expectations. Am I working hard enough on my music? Am I doing this and this well enough? It's like when you don't have somebody to tell you what to do, you have to do it yourself. And during the time of composing, that's one of the times where I can let go of that and just say, if I can write a little thing today at 10:30 tonight, it's cool. I'm not gonna push it. It's like, it's fine to take a walk. It's fine to go swimming. It's fine to watch a movie. And then usually little things come out of that that I can use in my. I sort of gather some little vibes or atmospheres or chord progressions that I think has some sort of. I can hear a development in somehow. So of course during my compositional sort of days, it's also obviously stuff that I'm experiencing that's coming. Right. That is coming out. It's interesting with composing because it's one day you can play something on your instrument and you couldn't care less basically. It's just like, oh, whatever. And then the next day you can pick it up and you maybe do the same thing and all of a sudden it's like, no, this is great. This could be a composition. So I think for me the compositional part of it also has a lot to do with your state of mind and also what you are experiencing. So so it's pretty interesting. Improvising is also composing for me, but once you, like, I might improvise 5 minutes, and if I say the last minute I record, and then that 1 minute in the end could be the starting point of a written composition. But the first minute could also have been the start of a written composition. So why do you? It's like it's pretty random somehow. Yeah. Which also leads me back to the fact that you can work forever. It's like you can take that first minute and the last minute and the middle minute, and so when do you relax and do nothing, or yeah.
That sense of a skeleton being like, is there a skeleton composition you got up your sleeve these days that you're working on? And you wanna, are they pretty crystallized once you walk away from the compositional time, or are they evolving on tour?
Yeah, well, no, the schedule, the core of the songs are usually pretty set somehow, and then they sort of develop live. It's something playing with Paul Motion's group for. I was in his band for 3-4 years, and we started playing bebop songs, and he would start bringing in his own material, and that was sort of I thought that was really, for me, it was very inspiring. I loved his older recordings where he was playing his own songs, and at that time I was writing something, recording it, and that's it. And then I realized, via Paul, that you can actually bring in songs from your back catalog to new groups, and it's going to change the music, and it's okay to record it again in a different context. And that sort of all of a sudden opened up I had a back catalog of maybe 100 songs all of a sudden that I could sort of reinvestigate So at the moment I'm writing something for choir, which is new to me somehow. But other than that, I'm trying to write something for an upcoming album. But somehow it's like I have a feeling it's because I feel like I have so much old stuff that we can still develop somehow. So every time I sit down and write, it's like I don't really try so hard, because it doesn't really matter if anything is coming out, because I still have stuff. So it's at some point I might really need something, and then I think I'll get back to it.
Maybe a musical break? Is that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
it sounds like a.
Yeah. Let's see if I can do an example of something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'll play a song that I wrote. This is a new one actually. I wrote it after spending a day on a beach in Argentina or something. It has a little warmth in it, I think, but it has changed a lot.
I think I just flatlined at the end. I hope there's a few questions kicking around out there. I've got one. Let me throw one more at you, and maybe people could be thinking. Yeah. Oh, sure. Let's do it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say this for the recording. So how many layers, when you're going full blast, how many layers of loops are, yeah.
Now or just in general? That's a good question. I don't know. But it's the same sort of loop that keeps running. So, yeah. There's nothing. And there's nothing really pre-recorded or anything. It's just, yeah. That's. Oh man, that is. I don't even know.
Infinity is a.
Yeah, it's. Sometimes if there's a lot of layers going, and that happened to me a few times, then the looper will. I reset it for the next song, and then it happened to me like maybe 5 times. Something is still in there somehow.
Yeah.
And that's. I had a really unfortunate episode one time with my wife's mom, and I dedicated a song to her. Which one was that? I think it's a song called Giant, and it's a beautiful ballad. And I wanted to make a little carpet of harmony underneath it, and I started playing, and it came right after a song where I maybe had 50 layers, so the carpet would be like shh, and then all of a sudden it's like. And that was, unfortunate, of course. So, yeah. That's why I sometimes sit down and do like a hard reset on stage. It takes me like 15 seconds because then I know that's not gonna happen. Yeah.
Else want to throw something in?
Other questions?
Luke. Oh, excuse me. Joe.
Thinking about the combination or the integration of structure which you create over time when you talk about composing a song, but then when you perform it, there is, particularly with collaboration, there's a lot of improvisation, and so just wondering if you could maybe wax eloquently a little bit about the relationship between, because it's a metaphor for life in a way, the relationship between the structure of the music and the need for improvisation and immediacy and being in that moment as well, that merging structure with the immediacy of improvisation.
I mean that's kind of that's like the key point of when I'm playing with my bands, like how much is composition and how much is and all I can do is I can bring in the songs, and then I would never tell, like for instance with my trio, I would never tell Joey or Thomas to do something specific with a song. Even though the night before one song might have gone in a direction that I thought was mean, not good is not the right way to say it, but if it goes somewhere where I thought it could have, something else could have happened, and that would have been nicer. But I have to get rid of those thoughts when I'm playing music. You have to be in the moment and just like let the music sort of decide what's. And we all come from different places, both like literally, and we also come from different mind spaces somehow. So for me, it's definitely taking a chance when you play music, like with other people. It's because I just leave them the freedom they want. So I think from doing it a lot, and like as a band we've played maybe 50, 60 concerts a year, that's what sort of drives me. That's what I think is inspiring by playing with my groups, is the fact that we can create something new and fresh with these compositions every night. But I do think that in order for that to happen, you have to let go of your sort of sort of like the ideas that you have for the music beforehand. And that's of course that can be in a way, if it, at least if you're playing with musicians you don't know, that will be nerve-wracking, like going on stage in somewhere when there's like 1,000 people waiting for you, and you don't know what you're gonna do, because it's yeah. So that's but that's also the fun of it. I used to play in also more like I play in rock-oriented groups, and I enjoyed that. But I pretty quickly realized that it wasn't so much for me, in the sense that I would play my parts and there was a sound engineer, things were cool, the audience liked it sounded like it did on the record. But then going off stage, for me, I was sort of always looking for something else. Like I never really felt like we came to a point where the music had gone places that I didn't know and that it would go to. And that, I think musicians are built differently. There's musicians that can delve with how, like, small parts in a group and try to really make the sound correct and really like work like that, almost like a scientist or something. So that it's just different parts of where you want to put your focus somehow. And for me, I just realized that I guess my upbringing with jazz music was just like sort of led me to the fact that I really need that improvised thing to be a big part of my music as well, no matter the risk somehow. And also now the song I just played, for me it's like a pretty little thing, and I didn't expect at all to end up in a weird place like I did. But it just, I just got the idea all of a sudden, and I just like, okay, I gotta go with it. It doesn't matter if people will think that it's weird, because this is right now. I just to do it and see what happens, and maybe it's gonna work, maybe not. So that was a little example of how my brain works. I think when we are playing music, it's always about, like, ideas will occur, and especially with Thomas and Joey, there's so many things happening. And if you hear something, just believe in it and go with it somehow. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Innovative?
Innovation aspect of composition. And I wonder if when you're playing, is the composer sometimes not with you, or is it always with you? Because it would seem to me there's an aspect of composure.
Yeah.
Do you very often record while you're playing and keeping liver and letting innovation happen?
Well,
Or is it very deliberate?
Well, first of all, I think I don't know if you said composer, but I do feel like I'm composing on stage also, but just with my group. So I always have, like for instance, yesterday I played that song and I stopped playing and I thought we were done, but Thomas kept going. Like my aesthetics was telling me I'm not going to go back into this piece again because that's gonna. The piece is done. There's no more need for guitar here. So that's a way of instantly composing. Of course, where can we go after this to make this song work and the whole concert as a whole work somehow. But yeah, and so I'm always, of course. Like I said before, that the musicians are completely set free, but I'm also constantly in a zone where I'm trying to make it the whole thing into like an overall composition that I sort of appreciate also. So, how much song do we need here after this improvisation? Do we need a melody here? Or do I need a contrast, something abstract? That's always a thing that is going on. And yeah, I do record also and listen back to it. I mean, it's that's something you first of all learn a lot from. I think to listen to what's going on during a concert, but also it's it can be a joy, but it can also be a little bit depressing in a way. Well, in the sense that of course it can sound bad. That's one thing. I never really, like, one night I might think it was great, and then listening back to it. It wasn't as great as the night before where I thought it sucked. So that's I never really have the right perspective on my music while I'm in it somehow. But there's also the fact that if you record something and you listen to it and you really like it, what are you going to do with it? It's not like recording quality material anyway. So that in that sense it's also a little bit depressing somehow. As a what?
A memory aid.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that it's cool in some way. But if you keep gathering, if you play like a tour of 15 concerts, there's a lot of material in, like, say 90 minutes per night, and if you want to listen to that really understand what happened that night, despite the recording quality that might not be so cool, you have to really spend time with it somehow, and that takes that also takes a place in your brain somehow. So, and if you have 15 concerts and you want to get to know all this music and all these weird places that we went together, sometimes it's cool if I'm in a learning phase, or if I'm in a place where I want to sort of figure out what's going on prior to a recording maybe or something. But sometimes it's just too much. I'd like to just be in the fact that remembering the moment as it was up here somehow, and not really meeting it again.
Letting it be what it was.
Yeah.
In whether you're accurate, your perspective.
Yeah.
Like whether you felt it was
Whether
great
it was
or not.
right or wrong, I don't know. But I do, for that reason also, I love recordings. I love going into a studio and recording something, because that's when you come out with something that you didn't have before, and it's actually something that will stay with you. So I can, like, after a recording session, I really enjoy a long period of time getting to know the music, because I don't really feel like I know it when we're recording it. It's sort of based on intuition and emotions and all kinds of things. So after 2-3 months or something, your ears starts actually listening to what happened, and you start to sort of get rid of the things that were in the way of actually listening to it as music. So that's really a joy, I think, of recording when that's when it's sort of aimed for release. But again, there's so much you can do. You can record all your gigs. You can go back to the hotel and check it out. But when we're touring with the trio, I think we don't really talk about the music. We tour. We go to the airport. We go to a train. Joey he loves to do magic. He's a really good magician. Thomas and me are both studying Japanese. We're kind of a weird gathering of people, like just like sliding through the airports with all our habits somehow, and somehow the music is traveling with us somehow. From 2 days ago we were in Edmonton, the day before we were in Winnipeg, the day before we were in Hamburg, and on Friday we're going to Portugal, and the music is developing while we are traveling, but we don't talk about it. Joey might have he might have something he thought about last night that is growing in him until we get onto a stage again in 2 days. And but I don't want to hear about it.
Can you, when we were getting set up here, you told me a lovely little metaphor, and nurturing the rose.
Oh, yeah.
And it just seems to connect with some of the things
Yeah.
we're talking about. It was
the
trumpeter that you've worked with, the Paula Nickelberg.
That's true. He's talking about can I just put in one little thing before that?
Oh, sure, of course.
That's just because of the recording thing. It's just a really quick. I remember Paul Blay was in Denmark for a teaching seminar many years ago. I don't know if you know Paul Blay. He's a wonderful piano player. Anyway, he was talking about the fact that he was a little bit difficult. Let's just call it like that. And he didn't want to touch the piano unless somebody recorded it. And the students were there, like trying to get something out of him, and he kept saying that I'm not playing the piano unless somebody's recording it. Why would I? If I touch this key, it's Paul Blay touching this key. It's something that will be enjoyable for people to listen to the decades to come. And he really insisted on the fact that every time he played music, it would be recorded and saved for the Paul Blay archives. Basically, that's what he told us at that time somehow. So there's. I'm just saying that recording gigs and recording things to listen back to and stuff. It's really a vast space you get into. There's so much things that it really quickly becomes overwhelming, basically, and it's going to drown you pretty much. Anyway, but Palle Mikkelborg was a good friend of mine. He's like 78 years old or something. We're touring together now, and we just talked about the rose, as you said, nurturing the rose, which is Palle is saying it's becoming more and more difficult these days. He's into meditation a lot. He's a very spiritual musician. If you don't know him, you should check him out. He's really beautiful, playing the trumpet, and he just. Yes, being from another generation, keeps talking about how the things are changing and how the touring life, social media, the whole aspect of becoming a musician and being a musician, all the things you have to do, like advertise yourself, you have to buy your own flights, you have to, it's like the scene has changed in a way, and nurturing the rose is like having this little, it's like a metaphor for just like having the music as the most important thing, having that actually bloom somehow, and how that is becoming more and more difficult. And I think a good example was we were playing in Hamburg the other day, and we basically didn't have like 10 seconds to ourselves before entering the stage. There's always something like you need to do. You have to. This guy's going to interview you right after the concert, and then there's a CD signing. You have to come really quickly to the, and it might sound it might sound a little bit I don't know, spoiled or something, but it is actually a little like sitting in a backstage, and then for Palle it's like really important to have some space, like just to feel who he is before he's actually going in front of 800 people and playing the trumpet. So it's just there's many challenges, I think, to touring and playing music. You have to adapt a lot. So yeah.
Lou has been trying to get in for a while.
Oh.
So when you hit a rut, how do you deal with that?
Oh man, yeah, totally. Of course. I think on stage, that it happens, of course, that you feel like nothing. But I think that's mostly a thing up here, because once you're listening back to it, it's really an emotional thing. Wow, why did I feel that weird during those 15 minutes? It sounds totally fine. So that happens a lot, and of course also at home. And I remember when I growing up and wanting to become a musician. I quit like high school at the age of 15 or something, and started working seriously with music at that time, which really scared me basically. And of course it didn't help that my mom was crying herself to sleep every night. So so in a way I was really running fast for many years to sort of make sure that this would not. I wouldn't know if it would fail or not, but I would try to do my absolute best to avoid it from crashing somehow. So I pretty quickly discovered the fact that you do get stuck in studying. Everybody knows that. Like you study, and I study my instrument, and then all of a sudden it doesn't feel inspiring anymore. What do? I still have many hours to do something, and so I just started working on different aspects of becoming acquainted with playing music somehow. There's so many aspects of it, like getting to know the history of the music, learning to, like the whole family tree, whereas this person, he's coming from that person, and this woman has been listening to this person, and it's like a whole thing that takes a long time, and music has been around for a long time. So for me, that was an aspect I really worked on, just like listening. Also, playing, and if I wasn't into like jamming and playing, I would have work to do with my instrument, and if I didn't have that, I would sort of keep setting up exercises for myself so that I would avoid dropping into a hole where nothing happened, basically. All because of the fact that I, made a decision to do this, and I was just pretty much unsure about whether it was possible or not to sort of pursue a career in music, because I also, wanted family and a life with, just a decent living with food on the table and stuff. So and I think that I've sort of taken that thing with me somehow, like trying to have different things that I can focus on. And now, like I said, I'm studying Japanese. That takes up time. I have a 1-year-old daughter, definitely also takes up time. So, now it's not that much of a problem for me.
There's no time to drop into the...
Not really, no, not really.
Good question.
Well, I think,
just in case everybody, did you hear that? The question was about, is there a visual aspect, like as you're traveling and seeing different landscapes, is there a visual aspect to the music that's being composed or improvised?
Not really, actually, but I think, I think of course, just the stress of being a human being today, all the noise that you're surrounded with, is it's not something I'm deliberately working to create a contrast to, but I guess it's something that happens by itself, I think. There was one person one time that wrote something about how this music would... I get all these mails from people, like they play it in school for the kids, some of my music, when they have to concentrate, and I get a lot of mails from parents who play the music to their babies, basically. And it's kind of like, I'm of course very happy about that, but it's also, I never really wrote it intentionally for anything. But I do think it's it definitely is some sort of contrast to, the fast life of emailing and traveling and all the stuff that's going on.
So it is in response.
Yeah, I
to
think
the
so.
Context. I know we're getting close. People are going to move, but a couple more questions. Yeah.
When you're composing live, in other words, improvising, how do you let, let's say, all the theory, Western harmony theory, and let's say the natural harmonics, how does that inform you in the moment? Do you draw on that while you're playing? Like, oh, is that a E minor? What can I add to that?
No, I don't really. I think that, no, I don't do that. I mean, but it is a really important, or maybe the most important place to keep developing. I think, what can you hear, what can you not hear? That's. I don't really. I never think about theory when I'm playing at all. It's all I think for me it's about sounds, atmospheres, and melodies, stuff that I hear. But of course, down below all of that, there is a base or a foundation somehow of training your ears, and of course training your knowledge of colors, hence harmony and rhythm and stuff like that. So, and that's a way of you can, that's one of the places, because I'm not really, at the moment at least, it changes all the time. But for the last few years, I haven't been interested in practicing my instrument at all, actually. But I'm interested in listening and being able to hear more. So if Thomas is playing something on the bass, it affects the music quite a bit if I know what he's doing, and if I don't know what he's doing. So that's a part of the music where I really feel like I have a responsibility to keep working with myself somehow. I don't see myself as a guitar player that plays all kinds of, but I do need tools to be able to create music still. And listening is definitely the most important one for me.
Get a couple over here, and we're going to wrap up in a few minutes. But I'd love to get as many as Kathy.
So I'm curious about the concept of kindness in jazz, and I'm wondering, is the cruelty in jazz? I mean, what would be the concept of kindness in jazz? I mean, your music is very beautiful, kind, as I listen to it, but what aspect would bring together that emotion or that concept of kindness with jazz?
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, that's that's a little bit difficult. I think it's. I guess for me, it's about being able to be yourself, basically, and be true to yourself somehow. I mean, there's in the history of jazz or in the history of music in general, there has been a lot of different temperaments somehow coming from great artists that might not have that you might not consider kind. But that has nothing to do with the music. It's still coming at you with a lot of love, and so it's I don't know. For me, that's just I guess. Yeah, you were the one that sort of wanted to talk about kindness.
Yeah, I laid that title on. I was saying, oh, you deal with it. I hear as you talk about even fostering your colleagues on stage to be themselves and go in directions that you're bringing a certain acceptance or compassion or lack of ego, sort of space. I mean, I don't want to do metaphors and everything you've said here today, Jakob, but I hear a lot of that as echoing conversations we might have in civil society about what does it mean to be good neighbors and fostering understanding.
That's I can relate to that. I think, and it's creating space for each other. Basically, it's like it's for this music and the music I'm bringing in to the people I'm playing with. It really needs the people I'm bringing in. It doesn't happen by itself. It's so simple somehow that it's. I remember actually you talked about Mark Turner, which is he's a saxophone player and he's very, very good in many ways. And Mark can really play also very, very difficult stuff. We talked about music. He was telling me he would practice all the time, and I said I never practice. I only write music, and that's another way of practicing. I guess when you're writing music, you're always thinking about, should it be this or that? You're making decisions all the time. And for him, he was talking about the difficulty of being in a space where it's important to create contrast, but it's also important to sort of it's a fine line somehow. You can't just like sit back and enjoy the ride somehow, because it doesn't just play itself, even though it's super simple. But I do. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I really like to sort of create these communities with my music where we can sort of experiment together. Yeah.
Susan.
My question kind of builds on because I was hearing what you were talking about is building the structures. It's quite a solitary experience in which you really bring yourself to the group when you're performing. Then there's this sense of community where each person becomes more themselves, but together. And so my question is, is there, you also play with different bandmates, different instrumentation. Is there, or what is the rule of practice, of rehearsal, before you go on stage, of building relationships together, understanding, is there a need for that?
I mean, we don't practice, but I think it's also because that might sound easy or something, but it's also because it's taken me a long time to get. Like I've played with these. I might have a family of musicians of like 40 musicians. I think that I love, and they all know my music by heart, basically, and that's really that's a luxury to have that. So I can invite different people into my music, and they all know the music, and they also know themselves in this music, and most importantly, they know that they are completely allowed to express what they feel somehow. So that that's another thing that sort of derives from Paul Motion for me, who was my biggest hero of all time and my mentor, and playing with him from when I was 23 or something really changed my life in many ways. And Paul was very he called me up one time when I was in Copenhagen and asked me to come to New York for a recording session, and that was after touring with him for like 3 years, and we had a break of 1 year or something, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I'm sitting in a basement and Paul Motion calls me and asks me to come to New York to record, and that's like, I remember talking to, I called my friend Ben Street up, and he was like, and he said to me, but Paul, I told him how happy I was, and then Ben said, well, Paul likes to sort of, what do you say, he wants to, not preserve, but he wants to sort of, I guess preserve it, so he wants to, he has the feeling of having a family somehow. And he wants, if you were once there on stage 3 years, he likes to document that somehow. And that's why he called me to, and then that sort of started a new relationship with Paul. But just that saying of having a family of musicians that you can work with, and that's really, and sometimes I start thinking about adding new people into, and
And so when you think of new people, and you think of family, how do you think someone authentic? I think I'd like to work with this person. Is it from listening to each other's music and talking that
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, both I think, but of course mostly from listening. Like pretty early on, I would hear some of my friends in musical contexts where I might not have liked the first 50 minutes, but then all of a sudden there was like 4 minutes where the saxophone player was playing something in a specific setting where I just thought it was incredible. And that would be for me a springboard to start thinking about composition, take that sort of vibe and create something myself. And then I think that those experiences layer inside of me somehow. Okay, I remember that feeling of him going to that place. That was really beautiful. And then somehow that comes out in different contexts. But I have all these like glimpses of moments with a various group of friends where I remember them shining somehow, and it's I both store those for the joy of storing them, but I also do it because of future composition, I think.
But again, an open, you're bringing an openness to hear past the 10 minutes that weren't that interesting, and so there's we could meet here.
Yeah.
I think we've cracked noon, and I know you're flying back to Denmark in a bit. So I'd like to just take a moment to just say how much I've appreciated this last hour or so, and your candor. This as you speak, I hear how you play, like just that. I was going to say self-contained. It's not, but it just feels very centered and comfortable, and it draws me in as a listener to your words and to your music, Jakob. And thank you so much for being here at Mackay today as part of this Kindness of Jazz. And we wish you all the best in all your endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Jakob, bro.